Let me ask you this, because you went into sales and I did sales as well. I was never really a great salesman unless I was talking about me. You know what I mean? So, as any of my exes, they think I know myself better than anyway. But that's not the point. So, how did you? Because you talk about go into a room, touch things. You know, you'll be the most comfortable in the room, but were you doing door-to-door sales? Were you doing phone sales? How did you become comfortable doing sales if you technically can't, how did you apply?
Okay. The first aspect of, first thing I did that was similar was back in college when I was a bill collector. Now, this is different, okay? This is just calling people and getting into a combative conversation. That was about. And that I got a certain amount, I learned a few things in that regard. But I went and I finished my engineering thing and I got my engineering certificates and did my cubicle stuff and started a consulting firm as well. And I felt pretty confident in that aspect. Right. But how do you apply it is your question. How do you...
Well, I guess, so, being an introvert, how did you get out of your shell to do,
There is, look, let me tell you, if you're talking specifically about introverts, the best performers are all introverts. Michael Jackson, Eddie Murphy, even Dr. Dre, Beyonce, all these people are not like,
Dave Chappelle.
Yeah. Exactly, if you notice them in your interview, in your element, they're not that guy. No, they're not gregarious.
I'm not either.
They're very they're relaxed, chill, introverted, studious type.
I know. I was like, Solo, you're so quiet. Bust out a minute. I'm really quiet in person. I mean, the girls might not agree, but I am.
So, it is not being a good performer is the point. Sales is a performance game.
Yes.
That's why you get paid well in sales. It's because it is not a commodity. In other words, performance meaning like LeBron, right? You cannot just say, I'm going to get rid of LeBron and I'm going to go get another person to fill this position. Right. However, when it comes to technical competency, you're just like that. You're like a computer or a light bulb. You're a commodity, okay? It's hard to become an engineer, but there are other engineers out there, right? And if it's about doing the technical aspect, we just remove you and put another guy. But sales is a performance thing, and performance is a very individual thing, right? There's only one LeBron does, because you have the trust factor.
Okay.
People trust introverts more.
I mean, right? I don't know about that. I mean, I'm an extrovert. Okay,
people trust introverts more. Like I'm telling you, because the guy who's always talking, right? Picture yourself in the meeting, right? The guy that's always talking about versus the guy that's quiet and when he talks, people listen. Right?
That makes sense.
People trust introverts more. People don't trust the gregarious, loudmouth, used car salesman type, right? So you have that going for you. And then when you just understand that it is a performance,
right?
In other words, just like dancing, singing, or playing basketball, it's a skill. That's why when I talk about going to a room, there's a skill to becoming comfortable in the room. There's a skill to making people comfortable. There's a skill to getting your point across, right? There's a skill to, before every meeting.
Wait, let me ask you this, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I get to cut you off like once every 10 minutes, right? Cameraman. I'm in a weird position, and I'm using myself, because you've seen the live streams. You saw when I had the blue suit on with the cigar.
That was a great one.
Yeah, that was.
I was gonna take you to the cigar lounge, but anyway, next time.
I was like, how are you smoking the cigar? Like you're like, yeah, this brother does not know how to smoke a cigar. Like we need to take him to cigar lounge, man. And then I was like, oh, Solo, you got $10 wine? Brother, you should be drinking, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I put something in the super chat real quick. Yo, shout out for Ike doing that. One thing about me is, you probably know this in my interviews and when I talk to people, even in real, I'm an extroverted type of person, right? But one thing I notice is when I'm at home alone, I'm very introverted. And it's gotten so bad, so who am I then? Because when I'm alone, at home, I just like to be alone. And it got so bad, the last girl I dated, right? When she would come over, you know, she liked to yap, and I just like would zone out, you know what I'm saying? And even then, like, if sometimes I hang out with women or whatever, like, okay, cool, like, you know, we maybe, you know, have some fun, indulge in some adult extracurricular activities, but then it's kind of like, okay, you know, you want to pillow talk, I want to like go to sleep. The point I was trying to say, Ike, is that even like now, it's like I'd rather be alone, like, because then I can get editing done, because I'm always behind making videos. So am I an extroverted person or am I an introvert? Because I prefer to be by myself. But when I'm out with people, I'm cool with being.
There's an energy aspect, which is the main parameter by which you judge introversion versus extroversion. But I would say if you're an anime guy, you're probably an introvert.
I love anime.
I think that's
the only reason Caitlin is still
I think that's the end of it there, but let's talk about the energy. So it's about how you get energized.
Right.
Okay. Now, an extrovert literally gets energy from other people.
Yeah.
They like to be around other people. That's if they feel down, they're like, let's go get revamped by going around other people.
Yeah.
Introverts, we go back into our cave to re-energize. Right? So after we do our performance, our interaction, so on and so forth, I know you tried to do that and then it didn't, people were not watching those.
It didn't go viral. Just bad timing.
Point is, don't mistake your performance side with introversion versus extroversion. As I said, most of the best performers are introverts. Right. But it's just a question of where you get your energy. Right. When you're down or when you need to revamp, do you go back into your zone, into your cave, and you do that, and you're set, and you're an introvert. If you have to go out into public and sap it from other people,
I'm a very simple guy. But then don't get me wrong. When I go out, I do socialize, right? I do talk to different people because when I go out, especially not as much now that I'm older, but especially when I was younger, it was like, yo, make the most of the moment, you know what I mean? But I think as I've gotten older, I value my privacy more. I value my time of peace. Like, I work from home, so when I'm working, I'm listening to either meditation music or ASMR. By the way, if you don't know what ASMR is, Google it. But the point is, it's kind of like, I like my peace. And so like, with deep...
Let me give you a tip about listening.
Yeah.
Because
that's,
beyond because I have a video about your ears, I have a video about your arms, so I have a video generally about subjective consciousness and mastery, blah 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 blah. Exactly. Yeah. And I will continue to do those. But there is one thing about listening, which is this: when someone is talking to you, repeat what they're saying to yourself.
Okay.
There's that thing about, well, you listening to respond or you listening to understand. When you're listening to respond, which is a tendency that a lot of people have, I have it too. I have it bad.
Yeah.
Rather than start running the tape of trying to understand what they say so that I can have my rebuttal or this or that or an adjoinder. Literally, as you're saying, so we went to the mall and then we took the red cab. I'll say it back in my head. I'll just be repeating exactly what you're saying to me. Okay, now, because that has the...
That's what I should have done with Caitlin today then during that.
That has the benefit of silencing your particular noise, right? That's number one. But then number two, you actually repeat the last phrase that they send to you is a great technique for conversation. So, she's talking. We took the red car and then we parked behind the restaurant and then we got off. Oh, you parked behind the restaurant and then you got off. Yeah, you know the restaurant, and then put on the red shoes. Can you imagine the red shoes? The red shoes? Yeah. So you're literally repeating. It's called in sales. It's a persuasion thing. Okay.
It's funny because you know sometimes, not to cut you off, but when I'm at the bar or lounges and I'm talking to like a beautiful girl, like Olivia, for example, I'll have them say their name and then I'll do like a quick play on words. Oh, your name is Olivia, like Olive? Really, Olivia? So what do you like to do for fun, Olivia? Because when you say a girl's name like 3 to 5 times a person's name in a quick succession in a row, then you retain it in your short-term memory. And one of the things, and this happened to me last weekend, is I met this gorgeous blonde, succotash. She was thicker than a Snicker, like thick, like goodness. I mean, if I was a baby, I'd be sucking all night long on those, Anyway, she was thicker than a Snicker, but guess what? I didn't do that, and I forgot her name, but she's on my phone. But do you think I'll find it? No, because I've got like over 500 people.
But that thing about, it's called, there's mirroring. Okay?
Mirroring, right.
And mirroring happens unconsciously, it also happens consciously.
Is that when I repeat the name, or is that?
That's verbal mirroring. But mirroring also in terms of like, you mirror their positions and so on and so forth at certain things.
Right.
It is a way of persuading people because it makes them comfortable with you, they see themselves in you, so on and so forth. Part of it is BS, but I like the verbal aspect. The verbal aspect always works. Try it next time, people listening, okay? First of all, mirroring in your head, and then literally just saying the thing that they said right back to them, okay? And people like to talk.
That's game. Yeah.
And people like to hear themselves. So
especially
you're literally
women, yes.
telling them what they said.
Yes.
And the conversation keeps on flowing.
Yes.
Now, it's also a way of ascertaining where there are particular nice streams to flow, or maybe this is a dead end, a cul-de-sac, because if you repeat the last thing she says and there's no flow beyond that, then you say your thing. You introduce a new aspect. Okay, cool. There's nothing about the red shoes that she needs to say anymore about. Because if you just repeat, the red shoes, and there's something more in the red shoe direction, she's gonna go on. Like, yeah, the red shoes, I told her, blah, 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 and my friend, blah, 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 blah. And I could not believe that we had the steak and salmon. The steak and salmon. Yeah, the one at the right? So, very simple. You're repeating it in your head, and then you're also saying what they say back to them. And presumably you have things to say too, so you don't have to be afraid. Like, what about what I'm gonna say? Forget what you're gonna say. Okay, this is about being a good listener.
I love that. I definitely love that. That's great advice and great, because one of the things, like I was giving you the whole name aspects, right, of repeating the name, like Olivia, Olive, or Caitlin, Cat Lady, Kit, whatever, right? You just play on words. But what if you are dealing with somebody where you're gonna, and I have a bad habit, and I know you know this. I have a tendency to do interviews and then I start talking a lot. So let me get to the question real quick. But what if it's a conversation that is you're not interested in the conversation, period. Like you're talking to somebody and you're just not interested. Do you still apply those techniques, or what techniques do you apply then?
I have to kind of understand the context. Are you like a captive audience? Can you leave, or can you not leave, or is this? Do you want to tell them to shut up and you
can't leave. So you're having dinner with family and your uncle's talking about.
It works even better in those instances.
Oh, okay.
Because you don't have to even think.
Okay.
Right. The thing about, and then when it comes to, like I said, if there's a dead end.
Right.
You don't have to, then at that point, you don't interject the new thing because you're not necessarily interested, right?
Right.
So you let them keep talking, you keep repeating the last phrase, and they keep going. If they don't have anything more to say, then it ends, and you're not off the hook. Now look, try this. People are gonna tell you, wow, that guy's the most interesting person I ever met. But you actually didn't say anything. All you did was be interested. Okay, this is another little communication/sales tip. You want to be interested. People find you interesting if you are interested. Don't start there, I need to find this bomb line to say. It's like, no, just be interested. And they will find you like, wow, that's the most interesting person in the world. But they did all the talking.
Right. No, with girls it's very easy. I mean, girls like to talk about themselves, so I just be like, hell, what do you do? You know what I'm saying? And let her go on a tangent. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it goes. But I mean, I like that though, because I think it's important for us to listen, right? And I think that's something we don't do enough of, right? Not just men with women, or women. Well, I think in general.
It's a hard thing. And that's why there are books written about it. And but communications again, I like to bring it into the practical things that you can measure. That's why I talk about sales, because you can talk about communication and this and that, and what's your love language and all that crap. But let's take it down to, okay, who successfully persuades and convinces people to buy X and therefore makes the most money? Things you can measure, right? And then what skills are they using to do that? And this mirroring in terms of verbal stuff and good listening skills, super, super, super key. When you come into a sales talk, you don't go in there to start, oh, well, we are Solo TV84 and we're a company of 5 and we do this. No, shut up. Shut up. You want to get to the point where they're talking as quick as possible. As quick as possible. So basically, my whole formula is this. Get their attention, state your intention. The point of stating your intention shows that they know where they're at. If you're here to sell me a knife, immediately tell me, look, I'm trying to sell you a knife. It's my job to sell you the knife, okay? It's not your job to buy. You know what I'm saying? So let me do my work, right?
I see what you're saying, yes.
So now you know, well, because guess what? If I just have a meeting with you and I'm just, rambling on, you're thinking back in your head, what the fuck does he want from me?
Right.
What is this, like, where I'm at? Right. But once you lay out the parameters for it, because I lay out the challenge, I say, hey, you know what? I'm here to get you guys to use our seismic bracing for your project in Portland, right? That's my goal, okay? Now they're like, oh, okay, cool. Well, let's see what you got. Okay, mister, you're gonna make a sell. Now they get the parameters. They know this is the guy that's here and he's gonna try to get us to use this thing at this job. They're actually more comfortable the more upfront you are, right? So immediately state your intention and then get them to start talking, right? So it's like, hey, mister, attention is hey, right? Or credentials or something. Get their attention.
Can this also work with women?
Definitely.
Okay.
If you want to take it to the extreme, you're talking mode 1. Right?
Yes.
People watching know what that is.
I let you know right away, like, I'm coming to LA, right? Like I said, I'm going to LA, and you're like, yeah, I need to do that.
I said, yeah, I got a ticket too. What are you doing?
Right, and then
You said,
there was some other stuff that I can't repeat on camera. Okay, so let's keep going. So it's an honest and direct approach.
An honest and direct approach.
Okay.
So when people think mode 1, shout out Alan Curry.
Alan Roger Curry.
I saw you guys had a little mini beef, and
but
you guys are cool. Okay, cool.
We patch things out. We're good.
Whether it's, look, human beings are human beings, okay? Communication is communication. Trying to get your point across is trying to get your point across. When you state up front what you're trying to do, there's an initial spike, but then things go down to below where they would have been if you didn't say anything. And that curve just keeps up, the curve of uncomfortability and discomfort and where the fuck am I, what the fuck is going on, just keeps going higher and higher and higher. Okay, what people are uncomfortable with is that initial spike. Like, hey, this is what I want. And they're like, but once that is over, it's over.
But here's the thing.
It's on the table. It doesn't mean you're gonna get it, but people are actually more comfortable knowing that, hey, this is Solo and this is what he wants.
Right. But, okay, that's very interesting. And, and I agree, by the way, with what you're saying. But we have a lot of men who, and once again, I gotta refer to women because we can talk about cryptos. There's a new coin that just came out. I forgot the name. That they're talking about might go up to $50, but we can talk about that for the last segment. We'll talk about cryptos. There's certain men, right, that believe, okay, and once again, I'm breaking it down to the most common denominator because we know that a lot of these guys, they watch videos because they like waffles and pancakes. So that's why we're breaking this down. But there's certain men who, a couple of years ago, the debate was, should you lie to women to get them into bed? Remember, there was a big debate between dating coaches, right? And certain men say, well, if I tell a girl, hey, that I met at the lounge bar, like, hey, I find you beautiful, I want to take you home, blah, blah, I'm never going to get a girl that way. So men would rather be like, oh yeah, you can just come to my place and we can, play bingo, and then she comes over and he's like, I got the Hennessy, gotcha, bitch. You know what I'm saying? So like, what's your take to that then? When people say, well, what Ike is saying sounds good in theory, but in practice, it's not realistic.
I think that, well, yes. So what I'm saying is that I prefer the direct approach, and I think that you cut things off quicker,
Right.
and you move on to the next that way.
So you're basically using that as a way to vet and not waste your time on. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I like that.
And you prevent entanglements of resentment, emotions.
That's the second time I heard that word.
Yeah.
Okay.